Well, here's the first casualty. This would have been a really nice bunch of bananas if the whole plant didn't blow over. G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and I never thought that I would be facing another cyclone in my life, but here we are preparing for Cyclone Alfred. So I thought I would take the opportunity to show you how we're preparing for a cyclone. Let's get into it. You could eat them green, like green banana chips. That's a thing, but honestly, it's not worth it. What a waste. Well, it won't be a waste, they'll go into the compost. But 50 years ago, Cyclone Tracy hit the city of Darwin in the early morning on Christmas Day. 66 lives were lost and the city was decimated. I survived that cyclone. I was only 6 at the time, but I remember it vividly. Our windows in the whole home were all blown out. This is when I woke up in the middle of the night. My mother came into the room and said, Mark, and she started shaking me. I was in a deep sleep. I woke up to see the street outside. There was no wall. All the louvers and windows had been blown out already. So we all rushed into the toilet, but it started to decay and break down. So we ended up going back down the hallway into the kitchen, and that's where we stayed the night with me and my little baby sister underneath the kitchen table. Anyway, the roof started lifting off and you could see the sky through the roof as it was lifting up and down. Very scary for everyone, especially scary for a child. And luckily, the roof stayed intact and it didn't blow completely off. Cyclone Alfred is expected to hit the southeast corner of Australia on this Friday or Saturday, affecting a massive area from the Sunshine Coast to Brisbane, the Gold Coast and northern New South Wales. Here's what we are doing to be prepared. Now, as a self-sufficiency guy, you would expect that I'd be all over this stuff, the prepping, the self-sufficiency side of things. And to be fair, I am over a lot of things, but there are some things that I'm not all over. With a cyclone, the least of my thoughts as we were winding up summer and heading into winter. But anyway, the first thing I'm going to talk about is power supply. Here we go here. This is our normal power box. We have solar power, which is helpful, but it doesn't power the home, and we don't have a solar power battery to power the home if the lights and everything go out and the power goes off. The power has gone off 3 times already this year and we didn't even have cyclones. So I'm expecting that we're going to lose power as soon as these big winds come across the coast and start hitting us. And unfortunately, the grid has become more and more unstable and more expensive to use over this last decade. You would think if you're paying more for energy, the whole system would be better, but in fact, it's getting a lot worse. Because of that intermittent power and losing power supply several times a year, what we did, clever me, was install a secondary power input into the home. If the power goes out, what we can do is we can use generators and we can plug them straight into the main vein of the home. We have the mains here that we switch down to generator, and those generators will then power not the whole house, but several vital supplies like the hot water system, maybe a few PCs, some lights, a kettle, a stove top, those types of things to make you comfortable. It won't run the ducted aircon or anything like that. This is just purely getting you by, especially the fridges, so that your food doesn't perish, of course. That's probably the main thing. You can sit in the dark, but you can't have your fridges not running for several days in a row, otherwise, yeah, your food goes off. So in this case, we've got 2 Honda generators. They're the EU22Is, fairly new. They're a couple of years old, but they haven't really been used much at all. The only problem is we hadn't used these generators for at least 12 months. One of them won't start at all, and the other one is running worse than an old man on an icy lake. I tell ya, look at this. I've pulled those cords so many times that I've nearly worn my finger to the bone. Before you start giving me tips on how to service a Honda generator, I know I've been through all the fault finding issues and all that, and I've done all I can as a DIY guy. I even had my mate Dono come over and he had a look as well, and we both went through it. We pulled it apart as much as possible, and we've established that the one that won't start at all, there's some electrical fault to it that you just have to buy apart, and the other one is running awful. I would suspect that there's some wasps has got into the motor or the exhaust, and I guess you could say, as far as the power situation goes, that's a bit of a fail. However, the good news is we have plenty of ice. We've got an upright freezer here that we use for a number of things, but ice is one of them. We pack a lot of ice in, sometimes to go fishing, actually a lot to go fishing, but other times just in case. And we've got several big eskies that keep ice for a week cold. So that's pretty cool. It's a bit tight at the moment because we've got all the cars under cover, of course, because of the storm coming. But basically we've got plenty of ice and we're getting more. We have an ice machine, and that, I reckon, when we did our renovations, was one of the best things we ever bought. Was a 24/7 ice machine, makes about 40 kilograms of ice in 24 hours. And so we're slowly packing that up, and we'll have this filled by tomorrow for when we hopefully don't need it, or do. And next to this stand-up freezer is our freeze dryer, which we won't be using, of course, at the moment or during the storm, but the food that we have made with the freeze dryer lasts up to 25 years. So we're not going to have to worry too much, but we have plenty of freeze-dried food that in an emergency we can use if we can't get to the store. But it's not like we're going to starve anyway. We've got this whole food garden to feed us, and this would feed us forever if we needed to. We've got heaps of veggies here: beetle leaf, rosella, zucchini, chilies for flavour, eggplants. We've even got a watermelon here that's ready to pick. Turmeric. Out the back here we've got a heap of taro. Now this is starting to die back because it's the end of summer, and so it's perfect timing to harvest these tubers and eat them like potatoes. And speaking of potatoes, we've got sweet potato over here that has grown all summer and is ready to harvest. We have got a plethora of food. We've got eggs with the chickens. We even have pumpkins growing down where the chickens are, and I've just harvested a nice big fruit from one of the vines. So we've got no problem at all eating from our garden. What we did do though was we went to the store and stacked up on some meats, some protein, and we've got plenty of condiments and all those types of things to make weeks and weeks or months and months of eating comfortable. Yes, food's important, but what's more important is water, and we do have plenty of that. And at the moment I'm just refilling our tank from our bore. So we have a bore that runs into that. We also have a rainwater tank off the house, and we have town water. If the town water goes down, we've got this fella here. But this morning I went to top up the tank through the bore. I switched it on and we blew a pipe down the bottom. But why did it have to happen now, right when we're in a supposed emergency? It rusted away right where the pipe meets the concrete. So what happened was I had to shear the bottom off, and all I've done is I've stuck some irrigation piping in for now, and that's kind of working. There's water leaking out, which isn't ideal, but most of the water is still getting up and into the tank to fill it. At the end of the day, you just got to improvise. I'll get that fixed up at a later date when everything has calmed down. At the moment, like, you couldn't buy a generator, they're all sold out. You couldn't get anything. The shops are manic, everything is getting sold out. You couldn't get toilet paper to save yourself. So luckily we have enough. I mean, I think everyone's still got plenty of toilet paper left over from COVID, haven't they? But anyway, with this water, yes, it's bore water, but it's a shallow bore, so the water's actually quite good. However, it is mineralized and you don't know what's in the tank as well. This tank is primarily used for watering the garden when we have to. But on this side of the tank, we have our fish filleting station, which we usually fillet fish at, but I can use it for potting up plants. The good thing about it though is we have a filter installed here and a hot water system, just a mini one, so you can have hot water if you need to wash your hands, those types of things. But that filter filters the water, of course, so in an emergency we still could have good filtered water. We'd still boil it and maybe run it through another filter in-house, and then we'd still have drinking water easily in an emergency. Hello little one, how are you feeling? Are you scared like mummy? Hey, are you scared like everyone? Are you scared like the normie news? Huh? Are you scared like the mainstream media? Huh? Well, you never know. Could be bad, but what do? We prepare for the worst and we hope for the best. Now, the other thing we're preparing for is, of course, inundation. With heaps of rain, we're pretty confident that our home won't get flooded out because it's on high ground and we're on the top of a hill, and that's all good. The problem is though, even in a medium storm, our shed tends to get flooded. But every good gardener, instead of sandbags, has potting mix. This is the premium variety. And so we've potty mixed our front of our shed up because that's where the water runs down our driveway, hits and builds up at the shed and then runs inside. And it also hits the side of the door and runs inside the shed as well. So we're going to potty mix that up as well to make sure that our shed stays dry, hopefully over this apparent 3 to 4 days of very heavy rain. And keeping our shed dry is important because this is where we have all our battery appliances recharging. And that's the other thing we're doing, is recharging all of our tools, getting a whole heap of batteries recharged up, everything that we've got, so that we can use it for lighting, chainsaws that are battery operated, and also we have a chainsaw, of course, that's fuel operated, and we've stocked up on the fuel. I mean, we won't need the fuel for the generators, but we can use the fuel for our equipment if need be, to chainsaw fallen trees and branches out of the way, that type of thing. But mainly we're just making sure that we've got lighting and remote fans and those types of things that we can use to make life a little more comfortable when the power's out. And of course, we've been doing our best to tidy up the yard, get rid of lying around tools and things that can get blown away. I'm not expecting any of our raised beds to get blown away. If they do, it's one heck of a storm anyway, and there's nothing much we can do about it. People have asked me just locally, are you trimming your fruit trees? Are you worried about your fruit trees? What can you do? And really, I say leave it as fate. The thing about fruit trees is, unless they're split right down the middle and shed completely off below the graft as well, they're going to come back. So if you do have branches broken and your fruit tree even terribly deformed and smashed up, you can always prune that off, and you'll be surprised at how fast these fruit trees will grow back and start producing fruit again. Give it some extra fertilizer, give it some extra love, some mulch, and within 12 months it'll probably be fruiting right in cycle. So I'm not that worried at all about a major cyclone hitting my fruit trees. I'm more concerned about, of course, our home and us, our people, our friends, our family. That's what I'm mostly concerned about. But you can't worry yourself stupid over it either. You have to be controlled in emergency situations, and I learnt a lot about this when I was in the military. When you're under a lot of pressure in an emergency situation, the last thing you can do, or the last thing that's helpful, is you panicking. The most clearest head is the one that comes out best. So you need to try to take some deep breaths, try to think methodically, be methodical on your preparation. If things don't work out, like they haven't for me in some parts, don't beat yourself up over it and worry yourself stupid, and don't sleep, because you're useless to everyone if you're tired and you can't perform on the day. So the last thing that I've been doing is kind of optimistic, and that is I've been sowing seeds, planting out seedlings, making new garden beds, mulching them up, and preparing for all this rain. The good thing about a whole heap of rain over 4 to 5 days, or maybe a week, is that you don't have to water your seedlings, or you don't have to water your seeds that you've sown. And within a week, those little plants should be coming up. I'm just going to let nature take its course and hope that the whole thing doesn't get blown into oblivion. And if this cyclone slowly hits the coast and turns into a low and we just get a heap of rain, well then the garden's going to benefit, because I've been fertilizing, I've been weeding, I've been cutting the grass, mowing the lawns, making sure everything is nice and ready for a good soaking. And then I'm not going to have to worry about the grass being too long in 2 weeks' time, or I can't mow because it's too boggy down the back. Everything is mowed and mowed down to the best of my ability, and the garden will be absolutely thriving after a week of rain. So that's my optimistic side of it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big crippled thumbs up. Sympathize with me. I tell you, I probably pulled, I don't know how many times I would have pulled those cords to start those generators. I reckon 5,000 times. But anyway, I'll heal up fast. Thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Bye for now. Cheers. Oh, and good luck. Good luck if you're in the line of fire. All the best.